We will now move forward to the keynote speaker. The future of climate action is more important than ever. And the Secretary General of the United Nations have called for a summit in September this year. A race we can win is actually clearly stated there on the top of the webpage of the summit. A race we can win. So it's a race, but we can win it. And we heard yesterday also from Ambassador de Alba, who will be our next speaker, the keynote speaker, that really now the focus of the summit is on action. It's not political declarations. We have enough of those. It's on action. And all of you, at least yesterday, agreed that this was a good idea. So action rather than the declarations. Ambassador Luis Alfonso de Alba, can I please invite you to the floor? You are the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the 2019 Climate Summit. Give him a warm applause. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. Let me start by thanking the government of Morocco, and especially to pay tribute to His Highness the King Hassan VI, not only for hosting this meeting, but particularly for the impressive work that has been done here with the solar plant. It's impressive. I had the opportunity to visit yesterday, and I couldn't start without paying my tribute to the government for his vision and its example. Let me also thank the CIF, happy anniversary, and the World Bank for inviting us to be here. As you heard, the Secretary General has called for a summit, or has invited member states for a summit on the 23rd of September this year. The Secretary General has done this because he's extremely concerned, because he's very much aware of the gravity of the situation, particularly after the release of the IPCC report on 1.5 degrees. And he considered that it is urgent to make a call for action and to have a substantive change in the way we deal with climate change if we want to achieve results within the 12 years that the IPCC has given us to have transformative solutions and be able to keep the temperature rise below 1.5 degrees. But at the same time, the Secretary General is also very much aware of very positive developments in terms of technology and in terms of financing. And in that sense, it is a call for action with urgency, but also with hope. And I think we will all share that hope. It is obviously very important for him that this summit, as it was mentioned by Johan, and I mentioned it yesterday, concentrate on actions and not on speeches. As you know, the UN, and I've been around the UN for many years, I can tell you that by my own experience, has frequently organized meetings on which we listen to one statement after the other. And sometimes it is necessary, it is important, but we do have a general debate to do that. And the general debate will start immediately after the summit. So member states will still be able to state their position and general views on the Tuesday of that month. But on Monday, we want countries to concentrate on identifying actions that could help us to reach our goals. It's going to be, for that reason, quite important to develop a process that will help us to identify those actions. And in order to do that, so the Secretary General has identified 9 areas on which we are going to be working. 6 areas which has direct link with the real economy, on which he has asked a country to lead and an organization to facilitate the process. and come with very concrete proposals. On climate finance would be the first one, infrastructure, cities and local action would be the second, energy transition, industry transition, nature-based solutions. Those areas, as I mentioned, are going to be led by a country. That country is going to build a coalition with other countries, with other institutions, and it's going to be supported by not only by one leading institution, but also by a coalition of institutions and the support of my own office in New York. But we have also added 3 areas on which we need to work, which we consider they are essential. I would say the first one is what we call for the time being the social and political drivers, which every day are more evidently called for action, because if we do not get the support of the population, if we do not get a clear understanding that we can change the model of development without affecting the fight against poverty, without ignoring the needs of the people when it comes to jobs, health, human rights in general, we will not be able to have sustainable policies, and we will not be able to retain the support of the population, even increase the support for climate action. We will also need to accompany these efforts with a huge mobilization in general, but particularly of young people, to make the case, because they are the ones that have been the drivers to this agenda for many years, and other members of different constituencies, indigenous peoples, just to mention one. And certainly these mobilizations aim at identifying also specific action. It's not just putting pressure on the government, but it is showing the way forward and making sure that the leaders through the summit are convinced that it is not only necessary to act, but it is also possible, and in some cases it's even profitable, because we are talking about leaders which are not only leaders of governments, but leaders of different sectors, the private sector included, civil society, and other stakeholders. So all those leaders, local government leaders, will be called to identify specific actions. The last area of work that we will be concentrating on is on emissions themselves. As you know, all countries need to update their NDCs by 2020, but we want the countries to go forward and farther than they have expected, because we need more action than previously imagined. If we take into account what has been promised in Paris, we will still need to do much more, because we will still be in a trajectory that will lead us probably to 3.5 degrees increase. So we need countries to update their NDCs and come with increased level of ambitions. And we are going to be working with what I would call the countries that have been at the forefront of the fight on climate change, committing specifically on reducing emissions and through the efforts on mitigation that they have undertaken, and new ones that could be envisaged, come with a solution that will be realistic to retain the temperature below 1.5. It's a little more than what was envisaged in Paris, even though Paris already mentioned 1.5 degrees, but I think it is necessary to take that goal as our common goal. We will certainly need to be prioritizing the work that we do, and not only with focus on the work that has been done through the UNFCCC, which we certainly need to continue to support, but we need to also make sure that the summit help us in understanding the linkages between different areas of the government and the development projects as a whole. Climate change is not just an environmental issue, it is a development issue. And because of that, we intend to work with different ministries, ministries of energy, obviously, but also ministries of finance, ministries of social development, etc. And the fact that we are having a meeting at the level of head of state will give us the opportunity for those leaders to instruct different areas of the government to act in a coordinated manner. We need to understand that we are confronting a need to change the model of development. It's a transformation of the development path, what is needed to achieve the goals. The summit, as you know, happened, or the summits in general happen from time to time, and give us, give us an opportunity to have these high-level instructions, but it also allows us, and particularly the Secretary General, to exercise his own influence. And let me tell you that he is very much willing to play that role. He has not only the capacity to convene leaders, but he has the capacity to influence decisions of those leaders, and he has the responsibility to represent peoples in general, and I would say the most vulnerable ones on the first stage. So let's make use of this opportunity that the Secretary General is giving us to increase the level of ambition, to elevate the political will to act, and to make clear that it is possible to achieve our goals. Let me also go back a little bit, because this meeting give us an opportunity to concentrate a little bit on the issues that you are dealing on, finance and energy. Just to highlight once again that the work that we will be doing is going to be critical. First, let me tell you that on finance, the Secretary General has asked the governments of France and Jamaica to lead. They will be doing that with the support of the World Bank, and they will be joining forces with many other countries and institutions. And they need to come back with clarity about the $100 billion that have been committed or promised by developed countries to ensure or to assist developing countries. I think that's the first step they need to take. But they also need to come with proposals on new financing, new ways of financing renewables and infrastructure, blended finance, sovereign green bonds, city green bonds, to mention a few examples. We also want them to make sure that proposals on finance give equal importance to projects that are aimed at mitigation as well as adaptation. Adaptation and resilience have not gotten until today as much importance as they should, as much importance as it was agreed they should have since we met in Cancun, on which my country was the host, and certainly as it was agreed and reaffirmed in Paris. We also need them to address the question of access to financing, which is critical, because it's not enough to have some resources available. We need to make sure that everybody can access those resources depending on the level of development and the capacity of each of the countries. Facilitating access is going to be a priority. We also need to look into the situation of some countries that need more concessionary loans, and they are for areas which are difficult to reach or because of different circumstances. And we need certainly to make sure that we push each other, and I'm talking not about only governments pushing one to the other to do better, but also financial institutions. And examples like the one we are seeing now with the CIF working with other institutions is going to be highly encouraged. On energy, let me once again praise the government of Morocco for the innovative plant that we are visiting today, and use that as an example of things that can be done and can be done at a high scale, which is also very, very important. Let me also recognize the government of Germany, who announced a few days ago that they are abandoning carbon by 2038, if I'm not wrong. I think that's a bold action, the kind of actions that we are hoping that every single member state will be able to do. But let me also highlight that bold, ambitious action means different things for different countries depending on their level of development. So in that sense, we have to be very careful that we address these issues in a manner on which we will be focused, aiming for very specific and ambitious actions, but at the same time with an inclusive mind, so that we cover the concerns of all countries and all regions. And being in Africa today, I think we need to pay particular attention to the needs of this continent. Having been working with other areas in the Pacific and in the Caribbean, I would also highlight the vulnerability of those regions. And we need certainly very specific commitments to develop projects which have this transformational capacity that will give us an opportunity to not only take distance or abandon totally coal, but also to be able to invest much more on renewables. Renewables that will not only reduce cost and damage to the atmosphere, but also will have a health impact, which is quite significant. We need to prevent the damage that the pollution is doing, just to mention one of the areas, and because of that, and I didn't mention at the beginning, on the social part, we are going to be working very closely with the World Health Organization, also with ILO. We need certainly to understand that we live in a world which present quite different challenges than the ones we were facing immediately before Paris, and we need to take stock of that. There is I would say, a worldwide leadership that has weakened, and we need to revert that situation. There are some countries who have been doing less than they have committed to, or they are backtracking of previous commitments, and we cannot ignore that situation. At the same time, we cannot disengage with any country. We will need to try to reach to all of them to the extent possible, and make sure that the political will is regained and that new leaders will come up and fill the gaps, because we have no other choice. There is no plan B. There is only one way forward, and it's the path that we intend to follow. So let me conclude by inviting you all, first of all, to attend the meeting at the highest level, but to be aware that it's going to be a very focused event. We will have a very limited space because we are working on a program for one single day. Maybe we will be able to organize some additional events during the weekend, but those events will not be at the United Nations headquarters. Will need to be outside. And at the main event, we are aiming at having only the best in terms of initiatives that will have an impact. I repeat, at different levels of development. I'm not talking only about big initiatives in terms of reducing emissions or amounts of money that would be committed, but initiatives that will have an impact and will resonate in the different areas of the world. Not only by attending, by committing to the plan, coalitions will get an opportunity to present their initiatives into in that summit. It is an opportunity that I think we should not miss. You know that 2020 is a critical milestone, and if we do not get there with the 100 billions, we do not get there with enhanced NDCs, we do not get there with a clarity on a strategy that will allow us to reach the goal of that has been identified by the IPCC, then we will have failed, and we will be accountable for that fail. I think, as it was mentioned before, we are in front of a race we can win, and I encourage you all to take that challenge from today. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And I hope you will give our best wishes to the Secretary General, and that you can bring the action from this room to him, that he can feel certain that there are a lot of people out there who want to win this race. Good. Thank you very much. So this ends actually the morning plenary session, a short one. Now it's time for work. You know, no more relaxing in here. Do you feel that you have the power to act now? Yes, yes, thank you so much. In Swedish we have something called lagom, which is, you know, balanced, not too much, not too little. But in this case I want to see really the high end here. So breakout sessions, you know where to go. And we will convene here at 4:15 for the closing plenary, where we will try to sum up a little bit and see where we move forward and take action further. So please have a good day, and see you at 4:15.